maybe you continue a bit with sculptural books and the thing that you told a bit earlier, that you need to keep your open mind. Well, I guess always, not only when you are making books or making art or something like that. I think it's better to keep an open mind always.
Hmm.
And your meetings with this sort of bookbinding conservatism, when somebody will tell you, well, that's not a book.
Hmm.
What do you feel about the difference between, I don't know, late 1970s, 1980s, and the modern time? Because in my opinion, many things have changed, and it's
Hmm.
much easier for people to experiment these days. And there will be less people who will tell, well, that's not a book, and you are doing it all wrong. And
Hmm.
well, there still are people who say things like that.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just nobody listens to them anymore, hopefully. So
Yeah, there are fewer
what's in your
people.
opinion? What's the change? Yeah, how it
Well,
is
that's
now compared to how it was then?
sure. Well, I started bookbinding in 77, 78. So that's when I was first getting into it. And, I had mentioned the opportunities for studying in Europe and the strength of the guild, at least in Germany. When I realized that we didn't have any of that, I rather lamented it at first. But then I realized that because we didn't have that real strong tradition here, we were free to experiment right from the get go. So that's that, we had a little bit of a head start. And that's what it felt like because the structure of bookbinding in Europe was rather restrictive. What you could do or couldn't do, or how you could earn a living. Could you put a sign out saying that you were a bookbinder if you weren't registered, or you hadn't earned your papers? So it was both a weakness for us because we didn't have the people, except the ones that came over, to really show us traditional structures, but we were also playing like crazy. 77, 78, I was already starting to experiment and look at different things. Now, Designer Bookbinders was with Bernard Middleton coming over and others coming over. That was the big influence. So that was leather bindings. They had a list of, well, even going back to the Guild of Bookworkers here in the States, I remember seeing that 1910, I think, there was a list of criterion for exhibition books. You couldn't sand the leather. You couldn't add extra dye to the leather. You couldn't do anything to the leather, basically. You could do onlays and tooling, and that was it. Otherwise, it was disqualified as a book that was able to be exhibited. And then, designer bookbinders opened up the whole putting the design on the outside, something that would represent the text, which I thought was a great advance. Um, to bring the interior to the exterior like that. But there were still a lot of regulations. For a while you had to have a suede doublure and you had to have leather binding and all of this stuff of a traditional a codex structure. And I thought, that was restrictive. I loved the work. I looked at it. I can remember seeing an exhibition of Mike Wilcox's work at the Met at the Watson Library at the Met in New York, and that was the last show that they had of living book artists. Now they only show deceased book artists, and or at least they did after that show. And I looked at it, and it was gorgeous. Mike's work is so good; it's just so good. Um, but I thought, if I can't do exactly this, I can do something as good as this. And that just seeing what Mike was able to do really inspired me. So, but I just keep going back to make, whenever I do a workshop, I'm saying, I'm showing you how I'm doing this myself, but this isn't chiseled in stone. Make it your own. Um, with wire edge binding, people said, aren't you going to patent it? And I said, no, I don't want to patent it. I want it to be part of become the vernacular, part of the bookbinding vernacular. And I started seeing ads for people that were offering wire edge binding, and I thought that was pretty cool. I'm not protective of it. I want to share it. I think that's we need that, and that's why I love the community here. Everybody shared. I hear from friends. And well, I went to a bindery in Bristol, England, and there was a fellow. This was back in the early '90s. He had rediscovered how to do tree marbling, and it was beautiful. And I said, "Are you teaching this?" He said, "Nope, it's going to die with me." Well, since then, other people have rediscovered the technique and have taken it forward and are teaching it. But I thought, what a strange attitude. We should share. We should just um, have fun and show people how we do things because everybody. Oh, the neighbor dog just came in, so I'm licking my hand for a moment. Oh, Charlie. I'll see you later, Charlie. Um, so share, and everybody does it differently. So no one's going to do it exactly the way that you do it anyway. So I just encourage people to make stuff their own, figure it out. And my teaching method, is Socratic. I ask questions because I try to share my process with people so that they see me confronted by a certain challenge. And so how do I think about it? And part of it is developing the eye, part of it is just being open, part of it is looking at it and deciding what you like and you don't like. And then um, I do that with people so that when they're standing at the bench in their studio and they have a challenge, they can start hearing their own internal process. They can have a dialogue with themselves and go through a process that hopefully will bring them to a solution for whatever is challenging them at that point. And I mean, I use that in my work, but I also, that's how I live too. It's really not a big distinction for me. I don't know if that answered your question or the direction you wanted to go, Stepan, but ask another one.
Sort
For
of.
me, it certainly generated more questions.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, so I've read about you teaching many workshops and founding a school. But do you also also ever trained anyone in house, like a traditional
Mm-hmm.
apprenticeship?
Mm-hmm.
Apprentice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an apprenticeship. An apprenticeship, I mean, there's a real strong definition for apprenticeship that goes back a ways in this country because of the probably library binderies, that sort of thing. But apprenticeships are paid positions. So I do often what I would call a residency, an internship. Well, I can't remember, or a student. But yes, I do train people in house. And I've run into some wonderful people. I've had a lot of crews over the years. At probably the biggest I had, maybe three or four people working with me. There was actually a group of four people that worked with me that got to be such close friends, and they were always cooking. So we had wonderful food in the studio during that time. And it was just really fun because they loved each other and got along really well. And it just made the studio a fun place to be. And they were all really good at the work, including Kylene Lee, who now is in Switzerland. She was here for years, and um, she was a student and contacted me because she had gone to Ireland and done a little bit of book work there and came back and wanted to do it after she graduated from a local college. And she ended up working with me for I think 7 or 8 years, um, and then I've got an assistant now, Erin Clay Nelson, who was part of that group, and she still works with me part time now, years later. And so yes, I do. I like sharing the information and sharing the experience and watching people develop their own artistic voice and their own uh, skills. I think that's really exciting. So, yep, I started the school in 1990. I was funny. Dan Tucker started the AHA School, which became the parent for the American Academy of Bookbinding in 1990. And he called me up and said, Dan, I started a school. And I said, Dan, I started a school too. Well, his had better funding, so his is still around. I ran the school until, maybe about, my wife and I ran it until maybe we did big classes, 12 students at a time, and a long schedule until about 5 years ago. maybe a little bit longer, but it had a good run. You know, it was about 25 years or so. Um, and I love that environment of sharing information and seeing people have that aha moment, you know, where they go, oh, that's how you do that, or that's how I can do that, you know? So, yes.
But you still continue to teach classes and students.
Oh, I do more private
You,
teaching now than the big groups. Um, this has a happy ending, but almost, well, about 4.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And, you know, that was a big kick in the butt. And I was given at that time by the docs at Mass General 3 to 5 years to live if the treatment worked. And here I am pushing 5 years now. So I'm going to go a lot longer than what they were projecting. But that's where the openness comes in. You know, my wife and I immediately took this on as I can't control anything. I may have said that already. I'm not looking to control anything, including book materials. I'm always in collaboration and communication with what's around me, the environment. So the cancer became something else to really hold and embrace and work with. And I feel healthier now than I've ever felt in my life because I really looked at my diet and exercise and everything else, how I spend my time. I used to be a workaholic. I would work. I was called the night watchman here at the studio because I did 4 all-nighters in a row for one project to get it done in time, you know, and that just takes 8 years off your life. So I used to just work all the time, but then I finally realized that I did that at the exclusion of everything else in my life. So opening up to things other than work have really benefited my health. And, you know, I still, well, I told during a family Zoom meeting, I said, well, the big difference is I stay home on weekends, but so I'm only working Monday through Friday. And I thought, when I said that, I thought, well, that's kind of a normal thing for people to do, isn't it? So I still work a lot, but nothing like I used to. And I'm a lot happier. You know, it's just like, yeah, okay. So there are other things. And I love my work. I love making stuff. But, connecting and relationship. And that was, I thought of that because of teaching. Teaching is all about relationship. You know, it's about really communicating with someone else and being open to what they have to say and asking questions. You know, I'll do something. And if someone asks me, why do you do it that way? I've only been stumped once. Because I'm pretty, I think about what I do and I try lots of different things and I pick the things that work best for me. Um, But if I say, you know, why do you do that that way? And they say, well, my teacher told me that. And I said, why did they tell you that? And they say, well, that's how they were shown. That's not good enough. It's just not enough. You need to really think about what you're doing. Put your body and your heart into it, but integrate mind and body and heart and spirit and everything and bring it to your work. That's the way to really do a good job of it.